So I played Verdant Moon by the user ilitria, and while I thought it was an interesting take on the MMORPG perspective, the game is about what you can expect from a developer who's moved on from this cesspool of a platform, being an echo of past mistakes made by bigger Roblox roguelikes on the platform, which once again offers little originality and unique content to the genre beyond the surface level. As usual, I hopped into their game description to gather background info on the developer, the game, and overall get a feel for what I can expect. The description leads to a Roblox group intended for all of Ilitria's games, so no Discord server to investigate. However, I did find a plethora of games to explore on her profile, and each is very unique in their direction and content overall, such as with Approaching Breathable's comfy aesthetic, which incorporates traditional Roblox building elements in contrast to the dark and serious overtones of Flower for My Moon, set in a hospitalization ward where the player navigates through surreal and disturbing worlds, both games which I found thoroughly interesting. There are a few other games I noticed under her profile, but we'll skip those for now, for the sake of brevity and because I believe these games are sufficient context on the capability of the developer. By the way, I'll be talking about a lot of my points I want to make in this video in the past tense, as in a what could have been sort of situation, as when you check when the game was last updated, yeah, they weren't fucking around when they said that they were done. Going into the game, you're offered a very nice looking title screen. Like, seriously, I like the color schemes going on here, and a really well designed guide UI that sort of tells you how the game works without being so forthcoming about it and being like fourth wall breaking. My only gripe is that this is separated for some reason from the controls and the settings menu, which I didn't even know existed until I checked the game description later, but I'll just attribute this to my own fault. So you wouldn't really know from the first impressions this game offers, but like in my last review where I covered the game Mountfall, Verdant suffers from rogue syndrome, which to be honest I prefer to the alternative swordburst disease, but it's still so frustrating to me that post-2019 Roblox RPGs seem to only adhere to these two guidelines as if nothing else can succeed on the platform. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The game throws you into a post-apocalyptic realm. Modern buildings in ruin litter the spawn area, and through dialogue with NPCs, you learn that this is the last bastion of humanity in the wake of the Earth, called Terra by the characters, becoming hostile and overtaking human civilization. Once you get over the jarring fact that the game uses your normal character in stark contrast to the style of the NPCs around you, it's a pretty interesting story and almost makes you wish this game had some sort of campaign to follow, aside from the fact that all players share one PvP allowed spawn area to optimize ganking for the higher level. I was intrigued. A pretty simplistic but efficient UI accompany you on your journey as you explore beyond the boundaries of the Grey Garden. My only gripe is with some of the text sizes, especially in the dialogue, because it just feels too big for the boxes themselves. This is just my own thing with a UI to text ratio or whatever you'd call it, but in the end it's still acceptable and readable. However, as mentioned before, the game emulates way too many elements from the source game, but neuters a bunch of features to the point where the game just feels like the bare bones of the original and sort of simplifies the game to a gross degree. A lot of these points can be shared with Mountfall, once again, which I recommend you check out as a prelude to this video, as they're fundamentally the same type of game, but Verdant does you the favor of providing faster means of obtaining currency, so with some dedication, exploration, and PK or avoiding, you can get hundreds of coin within less than an hour. That's an innovative currency name. And don't worry if you die, you literally won't lose any money unless you combat log. I don't know why these bootleg rogue games tried to exchange the permadeath for a rebirth type of system, but with how convoluted they made the process to literally just wipe your character, it makes it really not worth it to people who are looking to get a fresh dive into the game with no strings attached. So for replayers, your options are kind of fucked. The game kind of sets you on the one path into the woods, although it should be noted that there is another area in the back of the city, although not as popular because there's no indication that it's not just another part of the wall at first glance from afar. Now, when I saw, or rather heard of this nature-infested world, derelict human buildings scattered across the beginning of the map, I was so interested in seeing how this would reflect on the world out there, and I couldn't wait to see what I presume to be modern-day Earth having been taken over by flora and fauna, and no. It's literally just like forest, and the game immediately went into medieval fantasy territory. Needless to say, I was pretty disappointed. It's very much a missed opportunity to see more of this unique take on the world by applying it to other areas. We could have seen ruined buildings buried in the ground, evidence of old technology in ancient caves, or underground ruins. If any of this detracts from the fantasy-esque feel you wanted to make, why did you make the starter area like that? Why is the Grey Garden not taken over as well? It's annoying because this sort of introduction leads players into thinking they'll get a specific type of experience, only to cuck them at the end by putting them to Gaia 2. And why is the building detail in this game so uninspired? I'm not talking about the copy-paste buildings that spawn, but more like, why can't I go into this cave or this random black hole in the wall? I can't say I've seen the entirety of the game's map, but compared to what I was expecting, it felt surprisingly barren. You know, the NPCs go on and on about how life became unsurvivable outside the bounds of the garden, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like Rogue in the sense that, number one, the enemies you encounter are few and far between, disproportionate from the scale of the world. And number two, your biggest threat in the early game is honestly just other players looking to gank freshies for no reason. Of course, me being the PvE king, I decided to run away upon my encounters with such players, which led me to the rude awakening sickening that this game's movement system is very flawed. Similar to Rogue, you have running, rolling, and ledge grabbing, but the absence of a climbing system makes the game so damn annoying to traverse. I thought it'd be like Rogue, wherein you need mana first before being able to climb, but after I found a crystal, there was still no climbing ability to be found. Now, disclaimer, I don't mean, oh, if you're gonna make a roguelike open world, you need a climbing system, but it definitely helps, or at the very least incorporate some advanced movement system that will assist you in traversing the terrain. All the more important if you recognize that the world has nothing to offer you besides trinkets. By the way, the system for obtaining money just feels so uninspired and tedious. Like, thanks for making it so you can find one around every other corner, but when all you have to do is just constantly relog or wait like 2 minutes for them to respawn, all you do is add unnecessary fat to the meat of the gameplay. For me, it was a struggle to find a series of ascending grass blocks to climb up a ledge, or find the hidden pathways to different areas that would require very specific routes that I probably would have found sooner if I was able to move around better. I even checked the wiki to see how much of the game I was missing, and damn, there's a lot. But like the other 20 people who still play the game, I tended to stick in the woodlands areas because those were the most accessible to us and helped us the most with the currency-based progression that this game has. I randomly got a title in the game that I probably earned by running away from so many players, and I only found out later that these are like rank type things that you earn through different achievements in the game. But to equip different ones, you have to purchase them with in-game currency, which is ass. Once you unlock a title through your effort, it's my own humble opinion that, hey, they've already earned it, so let them have their free title. By the way, I will highlight that one thing this game does differently is incorporate a leveling system for the player. It ultimately doesn't serve as an indicator for any actual progress and doesn't give you any tangible benefits besides making you eligible to rebirth at the max level, which to me feels like a cheap ploy to encourage players to continue playing. Already insulting enough, may I add, that everything you need to get strong in the game comes from random drops you find on the floor that don't even pertain to your level specifically. You can just find mana and wow, you have mana. Or you find a poison gem randomly and enchant your weapon with it, and now you're on par with level 20s. Spared might played with me, and with the starter weapons, he managed to kill a rebirthed max level, which is already kind of telling about the combat experience in this game. Similar to Rogue, they imitate a long delayed type of attack that can allow for combos when hit in quick succession, stunning the enemy and preventing them from executing any attack themselves. It feels very easy once you get the hang of it, but ultimately you see just how unfairly punishing it is when you're on the receiving end. One hit and you're locked for maybe a couple seconds, but that time interval can literally be the difference between life and death. Now, before I get complaints on my complaints about this, don't get me wrong. I'm all for tide turnings, changing an L into a W through sheer skill or whatever, especially when it comes to unfair matches, but the tools the game offers to do these feats are just very lackluster. The blocking mechanic is scuffed and critical attacks have weird hitboxes that don't land a lot of the time depending on your angle relative to the enemy. Rolling away is possible when you're faced off against multiple enemies, well, good luck getting out of that triple stacker McChicken combo lock they got on you. It suffers from a lot of the same problems I see with other Rogue-esque games on the platform, and unfortunately does little to innovate the concept. Very sad, especially when you consider all the possibilities this almost sci-fi like post-apocalyptic realm could offer. Now, I don't know why it came to mind, but I feel like a Warframe type of combat would benefit this game very nicely and like be in tandem with its genre that it's trying to appeal to. But then again, I may be asking for too much seeing how nobody on the platform has made such a dynamic, fluid type of combat yet, at least not to my knowledge. I don't really have much more to say, given I feel like this game is already way too similar to my Mountfall review, given both games' horrific similarities, but I will give credit in the fact that the project seems to be completely polished and functional as intended. No remaining bugs or glitches that I encountered at all during my experience, except maybe memory leaks that could be causing lag, just because for some reason, despite my PC having pretty good specs, this game just lagged the fuck out at times. Also, I recognize I'm basically talking to a brick wall with these criticisms because the dev is retired, and the game's finished, and there will be no new updates, and a continually decreasing player count, and yeah, I just wanted to talk about it anyways. It can serve as a future blueprint on what not to do or something for future devs who want to make an MMORPG on the platform. To conclude, Verdant Moon offers promise and a unique story to tell and a unique world to step into upon your entry, but it's ultimately just all smoke and mirrors. The combat, the gameplay cycle, and the world itself are a textbook case of a game that has failed to deliver something new and original to the MMORPG platform. And while it can be engaging when playing with friends, it's ultimately defunct in its replayability, which is why I suspect the game continues to die today. With such an interesting take on the concept, a little more outside the box thinking could have given this game a long life beyond the devs' time on the platform. Regardless, wherever they are now, I wish them the best of luck. I have been Spirited Default, and thank you for watching. Yeah, guys, I'm reading this without the script, but I'm sorry about this. Sorry for the delays in upload. I want to say thank you for the support on my last video. I noticed that it's been blowing up, so I'm pretty happy about that. Sorry about the quality of this video too. It's kind of like short. I said I was gonna do it, so like I committed to myself to it, but then when I started playing it, I was like, it's not what I remember it being, because I played it as a kid for a little while and I thought it was interesting, but I guess just it's not really. The little kid Spirited Default was had lower expectations. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.